Good afternoon, Congresswoman Matsui. My name is Samuel Price. I am a registered nurse from Southern California that is looking for someone as passionate as I am about the health and efficacy of our current organ transplantation system. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to meet with me.
It's a pleasure to meet with you. What can I do for you today?
Given your work on the Organ Donation Clarification Act last year, you're aware that there are over 100,000 people waiting for organ transplants nationwide. Your legislation served to recognize the need to increase donor organ donation. Thank you for addressing such a critical need.
Yes, Congressman Wilson and I felt that by removing barriers for prospective donors, we could reach more patients and save lives.
According to organdonor.gov, the number of transplants needed are disproportionately kidneys. They are by far our highest in demand, with 89,000 patients on the waitlist as of March 2024, with only 27,000 transplants recorded in that same time. With 17 people dying each day while on the transplant waiting list, I hope that we can agree that more must be done. Your legislation helped to reduce some of the barriers to organ scarcity, but I did not see anything in your bill that mentioned xenotransplantation or transplants from humans to animals to humans. Was that an area that you looked into?
Yes, it was looked into briefly. However, the research and success rates for animal organ transplants were not enough to warrant mentioning in the bill. From what I understand, it is not a viable option. At least it wasn't at the time of the bill. I do hear that there has been some progress in that area.
Yes, you are right. I'd like to share with you a story of strength and hope. There is currently a 62-year-old man in Boston, Massachusetts that just made medical history last month. His story is a common one with a special chapter. He spent years being connected to a dialysis machine for many hours a day, 3 to 5 days a week. Dialysis dictated his life. He was fortunate enough to receive a kidney transplant and spent 7 years living with the freedom that most of us take for granted. The kidney he had transplanted failed at the time, and he was back on the machine. Feeling hopeless and helpless, he was back on the transplant wait list. He was presented with a groundbreaking procedure using a one-of-a-kind kidney. This kidney came from a genetically modified pig that was specifically raised for donation. It was successfully transplanted last month.
Thank you for sharing. That is wonderful. But human donors have rejected the animal organs in the few cases that I remember reading about. What's different about this case?
Thank you for asking. That is one of the most interesting parts of the story. The pigs were genetically modified so that they would be compatible for transplantation into humans and not rejected by the human immune system. Can you imagine how many lives could be saved by using animal donors?
That sounds like a nice idea, but the PR backlash would be a lot to handle. Animal rights activists would be at my office at the first mention of this idea.
I agree. There would be some pushback from animal advocacy groups. Like any procedure, there are bioethical implications. More so in this case because you're adding another species. The welfare of the donor animals should always be considered. When you think of the number of pigs that are slaughtered every year for food, the amount of donor animals is minute in comparison. The question becomes, how can you justify the slaughter of billions for food consumption, but reject the humane harvesting of donor organs?
That is a valid point, but there will still be pushback. It does present a different way to look at it, Mr. Price. What is it that you're asking?
With the recent successful kidney transplant in Boston and the dire need of organs in the United States, I feel that this is another way to help thousands of people extend their lives. With that, I was hoping that you would be willing to write a letter to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. They oversee the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network, who manages the organ wait list, among other things. I ask that you tell them about the story I shared with you today. Request that they direct the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network to look further into xenotransplantation and its benefits to their cause of improving the U.S. system so that more life-saving organs are available for transplant. I feel that with your prior advocacy of organ transplantation and prestigious tenure in Congress, they may listen and make the changes needed to help people on the wait list.
Thank you, Mr. Price, for stopping by and for your passionate position on organ transplants. I will see what I can do about your request, and I will have my office keep in touch.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Have a blessed day.